If history is a textbook detailing the steady march of human progress, then Göbekli Tepe is the torn-out, impossible chapter. We begin here, on this high, dusty, secluded hilltop in southeastern Turkey. What we find here is a staggering 12,000-year-old secret. A collection of massive stones erected by people who supposedly did not possess the societal capacity to do so. This discovery fundamentally challenges stone by monolithic stone, everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human civilization and the very origins of monumental architecture. To grasp the true scale of this anomaly, you must rewind the clock in your mind. Imagine this. A staggering 7 millennia before the pyramids of Giza were even conceived and constructed in Egypt. It predates the building of Stonehenge in England by nearly 6,000 years. At this time, mankind was still living in the late Stone Age, navigating the Paleolithic-Neolithic boundary. They were largely nomadic, living hand-to-mouth, reliant entirely on hunting and gathering. Yet, it was these very people who created this massive, intricate, and deeply spiritual complex. It's important to stress this. Hunter-gatherers, individuals who ostensibly lacked the necessary organized labor, stable food supply, and social hierarchy, built a sophisticated, monumental religious center. The sheer scale and precision of the construction defy our current models of societal development for that time period. Now, consider the colossal effort required. A single T-shaped pillar, quarried from the limestone bedrock nearby, weighs up to 16 tons. These enormous slabs had to be moved and erected entirely without the aid of the wheel or any domesticated pack animals. The issue we face here is not merely about their primitive technique, but about their logistics and their sustained social organization. Moving just one of these 20-ton stones up the steep gradient of the hill required the coordinated, persistent effort of an estimated 500 able-bodied individuals, pulling day in and day out for weeks on end. This raises critical questions about command structure. Who possessed the authority to marshal and sustain such a massive, specialized workforce? Who maintained the discipline? Most pressingly, who fed them day after day, month after month, year after year? At this elevation, water sources were challenging to maintain. And settled agriculture, the very prerequisite for such stability, according to the textbooks, had not yet been invented. This effort implies a complex social hierarchy, a clear and rigid division of labor, and an organized central authority, a sophisticated stratification that our historical models claim should have appeared only after the stable calorie surplus provided by famine. They were building a sanctuary, a place of profound spiritual importance, yet the bioarchaeological evidence confirms their diet remained fundamentally that of opportunistic hunter-gatherers, confirmed by the sheer quantity of wild animal bones found here. This stunning blend of monumental architecture, deep ritual complexity, and a primitive subsistence lifestyle is the great paradox of Göbekli Tepe. It is both a hunting ground and a magnificent temple. A central contradiction frozen in stone. They did not just worship the animals they hunted. The nature of the carving suggests they were communicating with or paying homage to something far greater and more remote than themselves. Something celestial. Archaeologists have found surprisingly little evidence of long-term habitation. No permanent hearths, no residential waste pits, no evidence of daily domestic life. Instead, the site functioned as a massive, multi-regional pilgrimage center, drawing disparate groups from hundreds of miles away to participate in massive periodic feasts and rituals. Analysis of the vast middens, the ancient garbage heaps, confirms their diet was overwhelmingly wild game. Over 90% of the faunal remains are from wild sheep, wild cattle, and gazelle. Barely 10% of the dietary evidence suggests any reliance on proto-agriculture. The mathematical improbability of sustaining this long-term construction effort based solely on foraging resources simply doesn't compute within our old frameworks. It was the Vatican of the hunter-gatherers, a place of intense spiritual convergence. What powerful, what deeply compelling or terrifying force could compel a decentralized, primitive society to mobilize such immense resources on such a long-term, specialized project? Not basic survival, not shelter, not protection from other tribes, but perhaps existential fear? A vivid, terrifying warning passed down through oral tradition. The most compelling and terrifying evidence is not in the size of the stones, but in the specific astronomical information encoded directly onto the pillar surfaces themselves. It was not a prayer to the fertility of the earth, as one might expect from primitive religion, but a dire message addressed to the cosmos, meticulously chiseled into the rock. In the next phase, we must move beyond simple archaeology and attempt to decode the specific celestial coordinates inscribed on the Vulture Stone. Pillar 43, the infamous Vulture Stone, is the absolute focal point of this entire cosmic memorandum. Detailed archaeoastronomy analysis shows that these bizarre animal forms, the vulture, the scorpion, the headless man, the fox, are not random. They align perfectly with the specific constellation positions visible during the vernal equinox in 10,150 BCE. This is far too precise to be mere coincidence or artistic whimsy. This is a deliberate, mathematically precise memorandum of a specific, planet-altering event witnessed by their ancestors. The carvings represent a fixed moment in cosmic time, a coordinate they desperately wanted to preserve. The corresponding scientific hypothesis provides the chilling context, the Younger Dryas Impact. Around the exact time recorded on Pillar 43, a giant comet, or more likely a large fragment of a disintegrating comet, impacted the Earth. This apocalyptic disaster caused global temperatures to plummet by a catastrophic 10 degrees Celsius, plunging the world into a sudden, deep, global winter that lasted over 200 years. The scientific evidence is now considered overwhelming. Iridium dust, platinum, and microscopic nanodiamonds, unmistakable signs of a massive cosmic airburst and impact, are found not only in the distant North American ice sheets and sediments, but also right here in the very clay soil and burial layers around Göbekli Tepe. Dr. Maya, our dedicated geoscientist, analyzing the clay and sediment samples from Göbekli Tepe, meticulously recorded a sharp, inexplicable vertical spike in carbon-14 concentration, corresponding directly to the final burial strata. This signature points definitively to a massive, sudden regional burning event, a celestial airburst's intense heat, or an associated mega-conflagration. The ancient people whose entire world was violently collapsing into this cold, harsh, Younger Dryas period were direct, terrified witnesses to a terrifying celestial disaster, and the coiled snake carving, often associated with chaos, destruction, and potential rebirth, is a powerful symbol of that existential threat. Göbekli Tepe, therefore, assumes a new identity. It is not just a temple, it is a permanent astronomical observatory, a massive, beautifully crafted time capsule. It was a colossal, desperate effort to record and transmit this historical tragedy to distant future generations who might survive the aftermath. And here is the most astounding part of the entire narrative. We have only seen the surface. Ground-penetrating radar, GPR, deployed by Dr. Elias and his high-tech team, has revealed dozens of similar stone circles, perfectly arranged and aligned, still buried beneath the deep lower soil of the hilltop. The total unexcavated area is estimated to be over 95% of the entire massive complex. The overall scale of this ancient effort dwarfs the visible site we walk through today. Dr. Elias carefully uses the precise GPR data to mark new, critical excavation points, confirming that the buried rings are arranged in a complex, interlocking and sophisticated architectural pattern, suggesting a long, evolving and highly engineered history to the site. The handful of exposed ruins we see today are simply the visible cap of a magnificent submerged iceberg, a massive network of monumental stone circles waiting to be unearthed. In the final act, we must wrestle with the ultimate paradox of Göbekli Tepe. Why did they stop? After approximately 1,000 years of continuous ritualistic use, the builders did not simply abandon the site, nor did they allow it to naturally decay. They performed the most complex and inexplicable act in the entire archaeological record. They intentionally buried the entire complex with tons of man-made rubble and earth. They moved more total dirt and stone to bury the temple than they did to build it. This was not a quick, careless act of abandonment. It was a ritual of profound finality, a sustained generations-long effort to carefully conceal their own masterpiece. Why seal away such a magnificent structure? One prevailing theory suggests it was an act of preservation, a way of protecting the cosmic warning from the elements or from the next inevitable predicted cataclysm. The other, perhaps more profound and haunting theory is that they wanted to seal away the deep trauma and the terrifying knowledge they had documented, to symbolically close the door on the fear. Adding to the final closing mystery, evidence of the skull cult. Human skulls deliberately carved, treated, and modified were interred deep within the burial layers, perhaps as part of the closing ritual, sealing the honored dead with the ancient knowledge. The biggest historical breakthrough, however, lies in the sheer, massive labor required. The constant, massive pressure of feeding this gigantic, semi-permanent labor force for over a millennium created an unsustainable strain on the nomadic resources. That sustained, religious-driven demand forced them to switch their entire societal paradigm. From finding food through hunting and gathering to producing food through dedicated, stable cultivation. Genetic data from Dr. Maya and her team confirms that the nearby Karakada Mountains are the indisputable genetic birthplace of einkorn wheat, the earliest domesticated grain known to humanity. The invention of agriculture was not a spontaneous genius idea born of comfort, but a logistical, existential necessity driven by religious demand. This single fact shatters and reverses the fundamental law of our history books. It wasn't agriculture that first gave rise to civilization, social organization, and organized religion. It was instead religion and the demanding, persistent need to construct and sustain a massive, permanent temple complex like Göbekli Tepe that ultimately gave birth to stable agriculture. Our first true civilization was founded not on material needs or rational economics, but on cosmic fear and the desperate, spiritual need to record the truth of the celestial tragedy they had witnessed. The final image we are left with is Göbekli Tepe in its powerful zenith, dramatically lit by torchlight, representing humanity's terrifying, desperate, yet ultimately successful first step toward a settled, controlled existence. It is a grand and humbling legacy, It is a testament to the incredible organizational capacity, the deep spiritual conviction, and the resilience of mankind 12,000 years ago, and a chilling cosmic memo, carefully buried, waiting patiently for us to fully decode its urgent warning. The greatest mystery of the Stone Age is far from over. If you want to continue exploring the planet's biggest historical and scientific mysteries, be sure to smash that like button, share this video, fiat, and subscribe to the ArchaeoX channel for more epic discoveries.